this is my review of My Hero Academia. Okay, so this episode actually starts off by taking things from a point B perspective. So while Deku and the other kids from the Bakugo Escort Squad, which is what they're calling it apparently, trying to save Bakugo and Tokoyami, the students in the remedial class actually get attacked by Dabi, and Vlad King manages to pin him to a wall, but then Aizawa bursts in when Dabi is trying to goad Vlad King into attacking, and reveals that he's actually a clone, and also points out that they need to stay put so that the teachers can actually keep an eye on him and save as many of the students as possible. And then he leaves to try and deal with what's left of the villains. Meanwhile, Deku and the rest of the students have indeed dogpiled on Mr. Compress, and then the group and the the Vanguard Action Squad actually get into a brief fight. But then Kurogiri shows up and ends the fight prematurely in an effort to try and escort what's left of the Vanguard Action Squad out. And presumably he already did that with the two members that had already gotten arrested, and he knew about. But before they can actually make the break for it, it's actually revealed that Shoji actually managed to steal the little orbs things in his pocket. But then Mr. Compress reveals that he actually stored the real Bakugo and Tokoyami in his mouth behind his mask, and that the two that were fished out of his pocket were actually dummies. But as he's finishing his monologue about how brilliant he is, Aoyama, who again has been hiding in the bushes this whole time, actually uses his naval laser to knock his mask off and causes him to drop the two marbles containing Bakugo and Tokoyami. And they do manage to save Tokoyami, but Bakugo is kidnapped, and despite Deku's best efforts, and Bakugo warns Deku to stay away before they fade into Kirishima's portal. Well, not Kirishima, but Kurogiri's portal, and then disappear. At which point the aftermath starts to play out. So they eventually do call in emergency services to put out the fire, and several of the students are hospitalized. Most wind up walking away okay, but four, including Deku, are still in the hospital by the end of the episode. So meanwhile, and then it's also revealed that Ragdoll actually wound up disappearing during the incident, and they couldn't find her. And also Bakugo got kidnapped, which is kind of what they were trying to prevent. And thanks to this entire incident, the news is kind of just ripping UA a new ass. It's just looking at the incident and pointing out how catastrophic of a failure this was, how they managed to lose one of their students, and it's more or less just shaken the idea of the superhero society which is kind of what the League of Villains wanted. And the teachers actually point out that if Bakugo does manage to turn to the side of the villains, it could make things even worse. But then the teachers actually reveal the elephant in the room, and actually kind of picked up on what I have been saying this entire time, that there might be a traitor among them and that they should be prepared. And while everybody starts pointing fingers at one another and tries to find a rational way to do this, Nezu actually tells them all that while he trusts everybody in the room, he himself can't actually say that he's innocent, and also points out that they just need to prepare and try to get Bakugo back. At which point All Might, who was kind of shaken up over the fact that he couldn't protect one of his students because he's the symbol of peace, and that's kind of his thing, and he's kind of having a bit of an identity crisis and is freaking out a little bit. But then he gets a call from his police friend Tsukuyachi, who reveals that they may know where the League of Villains hideout is, and how to get it, and how to get there. So, pointing out that people have seen Dabi coming and going from a place that should be abandoned. So they're planning to go on a raid to try and get Bakugo back, and at which point Class 1A actually goes to visit Deku in the hospital, Well, minus a few people because they're in the hospital, because they're also in the hospital, and also obviously Bakugo because he's missing. But Deku, after visiting Deku kind of has a bit of a breakdown, pointing out that he was upset of the fact that he couldn't save his friend, and that he couldn't call himself a hero if he couldn't actually do it, and that the thing that Aizawa said to him when they first met, it's kind of ringing in his head a little bit, that he'll never be able to be a hero if he breaks his arms after a single punch. So, at which point Kirishima actually speaks up and says that he actually came up with a plan, and points out that while he and Todoroki were going on their way to visit Deku, they actually found out that Yaoyorozu, who had implanted the thing with Iwase's help into the villain, and that she actually made a transceiver to find her tracking device and gives it to All Might and Sukiyachi. So, and then they try to plan, and then their plan basically involves them going to Yaoyorozu, asking for a second device so they can find out where Bakugo is and try to save him. But even Ida kind of is reluctant to agree, but points out that he's also not really for it since he got yelled at the last time he tried to go off on his own and try to help somebody. So Ida kind of knows that this is probably a bad idea, and is trying to tell everybody as much. But almost everybody else is kind of convinced that they could try and save Bakugo, and that's where the episode ends. So this is the end of the Force Train Camp arc, and is going to start the Hideout Raid arc, which is going to be fun-ish because I remember that it actually ends with one of the most important fights in the entire series. So it's definitely going to be an important arc going forward. But yeah, this is the end of the Force Train Camp arc. We'll see. We'll see how the next arc goes. It's apparently very short, only like a couple of episodes, but it is going to be very interesting. And also, now the staff at UA are aware that there might be a traitor among them, or at least suspect that there might be a traitor among them. It could be one of the adults, but it could also be one of the students, since it's entirely possible that somebody might have leaked information to the League of Villains and nobody really knows who. And that's kind of a recurring plot line throughout the series for a while, I think. But who knows? I mean, I don't really know who the UA traitor is, and I don't even know if it's ever been revealed who the UA traitor is. But yeah, it's clear that that's going to be a plot line that's going to be explored periodically from time to time as they try and figure out who it is. Because as I pointed out, the League of Villains shouldn't have even known about where the training camp actually was this year. They shouldn't have known at all. But now obviously they know, which means that somebody had to have leaked the information. Somebody who would have known what the information was. It's unknown at this time who actually leaked the information, but eventually I think they are going to explore that. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe they'll probably explore it at some point, but I really don't know when. But anyway, if you guys did enjoy this episode of My Hero Academia when it came out, then let me know in the comments down below what you thought. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below if you guys want to keep up to date with what's going on there. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Facebook and on Twitter, as I said, in the description below to keep up to date with what's going on. Also, if you want to help support the show, then be sure to check out my Patreon description below as well. So it's only a couple bucks a month, and it really helps me out, so I would definitely appreciate it if you did that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!